Well, first of all, good morning, and welcome to the 2019 edition of the North Carolina GIS Conference. My name is Tim Johnson. I'm the State Center for Geographic Information System Director and conference chair for this conference. The Executive Committee invites you to spend the next 3 days getting to know your community better, getting absorbed in GIS in North Carolina, and we hope you will do that. So, my first impression when I saw the renovated Bern Convention Center was, wow. All of you in Winston-Salem who are familiar with this facility already know it, but this has turned into a really great facility. We have many great memories from being here back in the 1990s and the 2000s. We were last here in 2007. Our technology and its impact on the world and the beautifully renovated convention center, big changes since then. And the downtown area that surrounds this area is also much different than when we left in 2007. There's been $20 million reinvested in this convention center to make it what it is today. But that even greater impact is $1.7 billion has been invested in the downtown area. So I invite you to go out and seek food, seek entertainment, seek other things to enrich your experience here. So Winston-Salem really has changed, and I want to just read a quote from Forbes magazine that was recently published and provided by the Winston-Salem folks. Forbes includes Winston-Salem in the Where to Go Next, the 14 best places to travel in the U.S. in 2019. So some of the other folks on the list are New York City, Charleston, South Carolina, Nashville, Tennessee, Fort Lauderdale, Florida, Santa Fe, New Mexico, and Baltimore, Maryland. The article goes on to say there's nothing like Southern hospitality, and you'll definitely find that in the heart of Winston-Salem, that is that Southern hospitality. The walkable downtown continues to grow with more than $1.5 billion invested in the downtown revitalization. Visitors can enjoy Winston-Salem thanks to 7 craft breweries in a 1-mile radius, more than 80 locally owned restaurants and cafes, and an array of live music. So again, enjoy what Winston-Salem has to offer. To get us started today, I would like to ask you to raise your hand if you're joining us from outside of North Carolina. Right, I know you are. Well, first of all, thanks for being here. Recently, I read a book by David McCullough on the Wright brothers. Mr. McCullough has written a number of biographies and books on historic events. The brothers were from Dayton, Ohio, not North Carolina, and were very curious and entrepreneurial, even at a young age. In April of 1900, Wilbur Wright turned 33 years old. 4 months later, in August, Orville turned 29 years old. In May of 1900, Wilbur wrote a letter asking about places in the U.S. to conduct flying experiments. Eventually, they connected with the U.S. Weather Bureau, now known as the National Weather Service, of course, and they came to North Carolina specifically to Kitty Hawk in the Outer Banks because it was a special place. It had characteristics such as consistent wind currents, areas for soft landings, as in don't kill yourself as you're trying this unusual thing for the first time. And it also offered something, something very important, and that was isolation. Because the brothers were very concerned about their competitors, people trying to do what they were trying to do at the same time they were trying to do it. So they purposely wanted to select a place that was isolated. But maybe most importantly, they found people in North Carolina that helped them. They had never been, they were 700 miles from North Carolina in Dayton. They had never left home to go anywhere further away than Chicago. And with the help of those local people in the Kitty Hawk area, and through their tremendous, and I mean tremendous, drive, determination, and ingenuity, they achieved their goal. So sharing that, really, the purpose of doing that was to say that we all know that not only is Kitty Hawk a special place, but North Carolina as a whole is a special place. You're in a special place today. So for those of you visiting and for those of you in North Carolina, please enjoy being in that special place. And for those outside of North Carolina, consider yourself being part of the family for the next 3 days. Absorb, but also share your ideas and your thoughts, and come back to see us in 2021. I'd like to move on now to the welcome from the Carolina URISA and URISA International groups. Carolina URISA, as many of you know, has long been a partner of the conference dating back to the 1990s. And I would like to call on Lisa Holtzberger, Vice President of Carolina URISA, for some words of welcome. I might add that Lisa is one of those people from outside of North Carolina joining us all the way from the city of Myrtle Beach. We're very pleased to have you.
Well, good morning, everyone. How many South Carolina peeps do we have out there? Hopefully a lot. All right, yay. That makes me feel a little bit better. North Carolina, I consider my second home because I did live in Raleigh in the early 90s and absolutely love that city. I still visit quite often. I hope everyone's doing well today, and it's great to be back in Winston-Salem. I have a lot of friends that live here, and I actually do come to visit quite a bit, so I hope you enjoy your stay. I will be standing in for Wayne Brewer, who is the president of Carolina URISA. Wayne sends his regrets that he could not be here today. Carolina URISA is really excited to be co-sponsoring this event. Thank you to all of the individuals and entities who worked tirelessly to bring the North Carolina GIS conference to fruition. For those of you who may not be familiar, Carolina URISA is the North and South Carolina chapter of URISA, which is our national organization. And Carolina URISA is now 15 years old. Our membership is over 200 strong, and it represents both urban and rural areas from North and South Carolina. Our members come from a wide variety of backgrounds, including GIS and IT, planning, zoning, law enforcement, emergency services, public works, surveying, and engineering. Carolina URISA exists to serve its members, and all of the chapter's activities revolve around the GIS industry in the Carolinas. We also provide technology and policy workshops, networking opportunities. We have a chapter newsletter. We offer employment and advertising outlets and policy guidance. In addition to the services that we provide directly to our members, Carolina URISA also works with organizations to help shape public policy in GIS-related matters. Carolina URISA also sponsors an addressing special interest group for members that administer and issue addresses. This group serves as a community resource for discussing trends, gaining knowledge from peers, and holding discussions with like-minded professionals. The Addressing Special Interest Group will be meeting tomorrow at 5:15 in the Piedmont 1 room. So please join us if this is of interest to you. Support of other GIS-related nonprofit organizations and planned activities, such as GIS Day, is of great importance to Carolina URISA. We give back in the way of scholarships, GIS Day activity funding, and financial and organizational support to other GIS organizations. In addition, Carolina URISA started funding GIS Corps for the first time in 2006, and we continue to do so. We look forward to supporting our members, and we welcome your suggestions on how we can better serve you. And I also wanted to mention, I've been in the GIS industry for close to 20 years now, and I've definitely seen a lot of changes over that time. And one of the most important factors that I can share with you, and I'm sure a lot of you know, is how important networking is. So please take that opportunity to do that while you're at this conference over the next few days. Those relationships that you build are invaluable. And I'm still friends with so many people that I've known for close to 20 years, and it's great to be able to call on them. And we get to share ideas and things like that. So enjoy your time while you're here. We're glad you're here.
Thanks, Lisa, and thanks again for joining us and subbing for Wayne. North Carolina is fortunate to have GIS professionals that provide leadership at the national level. Teresa Townsend is one of those individuals. Teresa recently served as president of the International ERISA organization. She's president of our own company called Planning Communities Incorporated, which is a North Carolina-based company in Raleigh. She's worked with us in recent years in the conference program committee and in other capacities, and is also a willing contributor to the success of the conference. I'd like to ask Teresa to spend a few minutes talking to us about International ERISA.
Uh-oh. Hold on. Welcome to Masterpiece Theater with Tim Johnson. Okay, it's going to fall down. So, well, I'll just hold it. Good morning, everyone. Starting off with a mic that's not standing up, so I'll just take it out. I guess that's probably the easiest way. This is good. I have just a few slides. I misread Tim's email, thought I had 12 minutes. I have 3. So I'm going to very, very quickly. Is this the clicker here? Okay, this is forward. I'm going to very quickly give you a little bit of an update on ERISA, introduce ERISA, and I want to thank Lisa for talking about Carolina ERISA. So what is ERISA? ERISA is a nonprofit organization. It's an international organization and connecting people locally, globally, and regionally, out of order. The vision is to connect people and resources in the geospatial community, and it is a multidisciplinary organization, as Lisa mentioned, from anywhere from GIS folks to planning, surveying, and all of the other occupations in this room. The three key strategic goals are to promote, protect, and grow the GIS profession, support GIS professionals at all stages of their careers with essential training and resources, and to sustain and strengthen the organization. There are a few folks you might recognize, some in this room. This is the current ERISA board. There are 26 chapters worldwide, including Canada and several other international chapters, Jamaica and others. And as of October 2018, there was about 1,700 members. I think there's about 1,800 now. A little bit about One ERISA. One ERISA is an initiative that ERISA is actually going through right now and has been for the last few years. If you are a chapter ERISA member, you may have heard of this. The initiative includes bringing all the chapters up under a unified membership model. So you will now, as the chapters come on, you'll see, similar to other organizations like the APA, you'll have one kind of a one-member shop to pay your registration and such. Not all chapters have come on yet, but we are working towards that, and we're working right now with about 4 early adopters to help kind of set and pave the way. What this means for you as a chapter is access to a larger professional network, being part of a bigger organization that has a larger voice, has more opportunities for GISP, and you can run and vote on ERISA leadership. ERISA has been around for a long time. We've been putting on conferences. In fact, it started out with a conference since 1963, and there's been an annual conference almost every year since then. And in addition to the annual conference, there are a number of specialty conferences, including CAMA. If you want to go to the Caribbean, there's going to be a Caribbean conference coming up. There is always a GIS in Health, GIS in Transit, and a number of other specialty. So anyone feel like going to New Orleans in September? Yay! There's one right there. So in September, we're going to have our GIS Pro in New Orleans. And if you want, I'm just going to skip through a few things here. And if you don't want to go that far, the GIS Leadership Academy will be in Raleigh on May 20th through the 24th. And sign up very early for this. It's already kind of on its way to being sold out. So if you are interested, please contact urisa.org and get signed up for that. And is Caitlin in here? Caitlin Meyer. If she is, okay, you'll find her later. So Caitlin Meyer is one of our current Vanguard cabinet members. URISA has put a lot of energy and support for our young professionals. We have a Vanguard cabinet, which is a special appointed cabinet representing the young professionals within the organization and out. I think Daniel Binky is here. Is he here? Just saw him a minute ago. Okay, he was a former Vanguard cabinet member, so if you'd like to learn about that. And we also are internationally represented. I'm going to be speaking in Triple SI, our sister organization in Australia, next month, connected to UN. One of the other things that you might have heard about, and I'd love to have you all get involved, is with the GIS Corps. And this is URISA's growth moving forward from last year. We had a 38% increase in our young professionals, 66% increase in our URISA GIS Leadership Academies, and we have over 16 companies or countries represented. More things to celebrate, lots of cool stuff. And then the last slide is on upcoming events. So I mentioned the GIS Leadership, I mentioned GIS Pro. We also have another Leadership Academy if you can't seem to get into the Raleigh one in Phoenix, and then also sign up for the Caribbean Conference in November. And thank you very much.
Thanks. Thank you, Teresa. I probably messed it up myself, so apologies there. All right, for the next few minutes, I want to talk to you about the specifics of the conference because the conference has changed since 2017. So I'm going to walk through some of that. Just listen. I'd say listen carefully and absorb what you need to have the best conference experience. So after the 2017 conference, we had to take a hard look at whether we could stay with a 2-day event. And we heard from many of you who wanted us to expand it to 3 days. And to show that we were listening, we actually changed it to 3 days. And we hope that this will make a big difference for you. We tried to think carefully about how to do this. And this will be obviously our first try at 3 days. And your feedback through the evaluations and through other means would also be very appreciated. So I want to talk first about how the program has changed. First of all, we have a wide range of topics like we have always had, local and state applications of GIS, private sector applications, university-based applications. We have roughly 150 speakers, which is pretty consistent with what we've had before. But spread over 3 days, so we only have 6 concurrent sessions. And that's still a large number, but should allow you to, space your time more efficiently, not have so much contention between the things that you want to go to. So the 6 session rooms, 4 are upstairs on either side of me, 2 are downstairs, the Piedmont rooms. We're handling the scheduling a bit different as well from the past. We don't have individual sessions. We have individual presentations. We thought it was too restrictive to try to create sessions with 3 speakers like we've typically done. So we've kind of individualized the conference content. So for each presentation, there's a 30-minute time block, as you've noticed on the agenda. The speaker should talk for about 20 minutes. We'll have 5 minutes for questions, and then we'll have 5 minutes for transition to the next speaker. that part is important because we don't want to start the next presentation in that room before that 30-minute time slot, kicks off. So if you're moving from room to room, you can expect that each presentation will start on time and won't start early. If a presenter is missing from the time slot, that time slot will just be empty for that 30-minute slot. So we're not moving things up to fill those gaps. On the technology side, we've again worked to make this the best experience it can be for you. We have a new tool. The app is called Connects Me. If you haven't connected to it or installed it on your phone, please do that, because that's your entree into lots of things in the conference, some of which I'm going to describe here in a second. This application is different from what we used in 2017. It has a number of new features that we think you'll like. We encourage you to install it and get ready to use it. One feature of the app that I'd like to highlight is something called Live Slides. This feature allows you to view, capture, and annotate slides as the presentation is happening. All of your captured slides will be grouped by presentation title so that you can view them after the conference or download them as a PDF. So we thought that was pretty cool. All the conference sessions are being recorded, including this one and the Friday luncheon session, just like we did in 2017. It'll be available through YouTube just like it was after the 2017 conference. It'll take us a few weeks to get that published, so to speak, and available to you, but you'll be notified through the registration tool that's happening. Last but not least, I would like to encourage all of you to use your smartphone to take pictures of what you see at the conference, post those to social media, and so we'll have a record of the events of the conference from your perspective and obviously from hundreds of perspectives as the 3 days transpires. In terms of arrangements, one of the things that we've done for this 3-day conference is to change how we do lunch. So you've noticed on the agenda that the Wednesday and Thursday lunch today and tomorrow are on your own. And I would just say explore those 80 locally owned restaurants and other cafes and so forth for lunch. We've tried to allocate sufficient time for you to do that and come back. I think the weather, for the most part, is going to cooperate with us, which is a blessing that I can't fully describe. So I'm thinking snow. I think to conclude with that piece of information, there's a Visit Winston-Salem desk right across from this room. Talk to Karen Knox and her team. They've been very supportive of the conference dating back to when we announced that it would be in Winston-Salem. They're very excited to have you here, so they want to ensure that you have the best lunch experience, just like any other type of experience you have with the conference. All the food offered from the breakfast to the breaks to the social this evening is in Piedmont 4, which is in the exhibit hall area. The poster session, social and the poster session, of course, are tonight. And I also want to point out an analog piece of the conference, and that is the job board that's right outside this room next to the registration desk. We just had to do something old school, so that's what we chose to do. We're really pleased to have 45 exhibit booths for you to enjoy over the next 3 days. We really have a solid group of vendors who join us every year, but we also have half a dozen or so that are new to the conference, found out about it through various means, and are here to share what they have to offer in terms of products and services. We also believe we have an improved vendor demo theater experience for you. We went into that foray last conference, felt like it was good, but it could be better, so we've tried to improve that this year. There's a schedule as part of the app for that vendor demo theater over the next 3 days, and you can also see a sign as you enter the exhibit hall that has the same information. The social and the poster session are tonight. We had a choice of having it Wednesday or Thursday. We thought Wednesday was the better day because it introduces you to all of your peers early in the conference. So we made it a Wednesday night event. It'll be from 5 to 7 downstairs, and it will be a great opportunity for networking and interacting with vendors and provide that kind of an experience for you. The conference social will also be host to a new feature, and I have to thank my creative director, Brett Spivey. I don't know if Brett's in the room, for creating these things. He typically has great ideas, and we'll see if this one is as great as many of his others. So we have something called the first annual North Carolina GIS Putt-Putt Invitational. I'm not kidding if you haven't seen this. So the winner will be able to don the soon-to-be famous North Carolina GIS Golf Invitational Tournament Champions jacket. I've seen a picture of this jacket. It's unexplainable. So you'll also get a smart speaker and possibly a new Corvette. Wait a minute. Who authorized? I didn't authorize that, John, just so you know. That's what it says. I'm just reading what it says. Our other activity is called Vendor Connect 4. As you speak with different vendors during the social, be sure to get your card stamped. This is a card, it's like an index card. Get 4 in a row and enter to win a smart speaker and another vehicle of your choice, another unauthorized purchase. Maybe I'll go back with Lisa to South Carolina, because I might not want to be in North Carolina when this hits the paper. So the final thing I wanted to mention on the poster session is actually the poster session itself. And Trish Patterson and Ed Shipman, Trish is with the City of Burlington, Ed's with the NCDOT, really done a great job of attracting all 48 posters that you're seeing downstairs. We had a number of people, frankly, who waited really to the last minute to get their posters in. So in the past week, the number of posters doubled. So that tells you where we were, maybe 2 weeks ago. But that's okay. All these people have done great work. They deserve to have you look at that work, and they also deserve to have you vote on their work. So I'd really like to encourage you to do that. You'll be voting through the app, and you'll be voting. This is a change from last time. We're not just voting during the poster session. We're voting starting at 1 o'clock today through tomorrow at 6 p.m. So you've got an extended period of time to, A, look at the posters, and B, select the best one based on what you think. So we'd really like to see many, if not most of you, cast a vote on the posters. One of the other features of the conference is the special interest group meetings. These have been moved from the lunchtime hour to 5 o'clock or 5:15, technically, tomorrow. These are on the app in terms of where they're going to be located, but they're located in the same session rooms as the other conference content. Certifications have always been an important part of the conference, and it's the same is true this year. GISP certification in particular is one that is special to me. I think it's important for the community and important to us as professionals. And really briefly, I would like for each of you to stand who currently have a GISP. How many of you have that? Wow. Great number. Thank you. It's worth applause. So, in addition to the GISP certification, we also offer content that's subject to verification and approval by the American Planning Association, and we've taken that step this year. So there are individual presentations that have that seal of approval, so to speak. Those are highlighted in your program. The North Carolina Property Mappers Association also provides continuing education credits, and those should be important to you from the NCPMA organization. I'd like to conclude my remarks for now with the closing luncheon, just to preview that for you. We'll be closing out the conference on Friday with the luncheon, so there won't be an afternoon presentation. But for those of you who are anxious to travel, I would ask you to hold and enjoy the closing luncheon because I think it's going to be worth your time. We'll be recognizing the winners of the Herb Stout Awards, both the local government awards and the student awards. We have 17 students that will be recognized. We'll have a city and a county that will be recognized at that time. And we'll have a special presentation that will focus on future collaboration with each of you in the room. And I'm serious when I say each of you in the room. I would like for you to be involved in that going forward. This is your conference. It's about building community, and we're not done with what it means to build the community. And I think you'll hear some words a little bit later about Hurricane Florence that kind of underscore that. It's about sharing ideas, building that network, and sustaining it. So during the luncheon program, our speaker is Alex Rankin, who's the current chair of the North Carolina Geographic Information Coordinating Council, appointed a little over a year ago by Governor Roy Cooper. Alex will speak about the GIS community and how the council and you can work together even better to achieve great things. So as part of the run-up to that Friday luncheon, after this session is over, I'd like for you to look at the app and answer a few questions using the polling technique on the app. I think it'll be obvious. All of you are tech savvy, probably a lot more tech savvy than I am, frankly. So we'd like for you to see that, answer those questions, and those answers will be accumulated through tomorrow evening and will be used as part of the presentation on Friday. They're simple questions, won't take you long to answer them. Okay, we're going to transition now to focusing on Hurricane Florence. We have, as North Carolinians, and primarily the folks in the southeastern and eastern part of the state, experienced something very tragic, but it also shows some things that are great about North Carolina, the working together, supporting each other. As you all know, and for those of you who are out of state may not know this, Hurricane Florence landed on September 14th of last year in and around the city of Wilmington. Over the next several days, that event changed the lives and the landscape in eastern and southeastern North Carolina. Dumped between 25 and 36 inches of rain in roughly a 4-day period, which is still hard to get my arms around thinking about that. So amid the chaos and the tragedy of those days, the value of GIS, and perhaps more significantly, the value of the GIS professionals working together to make a difference in their communities came to the forefront. This morning, we're going to hear more about their stories. And first, we're going to hear from Alice Wilson from the city of New Bern. I want to talk to you for a minute about Alice. Alice is the GIS manager of the city of New Bern, has been there for 18 years, has seen a lot in those 18 years, but nothing probably prepared her for what would happen with Hurricane Florence. She serves at the state level of the Statewide Mapping Advisory Committee and in other capacities. And I just asked Alice to share just really a glimpse of what happened during Hurricane Florence, the community impact, the involvement of the community in helping her get her job done, and just share from the heart with us.
I'd almost rather be in the EOC right now than up here, but nonetheless, I feel like I'm in church. Everybody's sitting in the back, so we'll go with it. So bear with me. Still kind of a tender spot in my heart for the storm and the effects that it had on our community and other communities, but so hopefully I will not start crying, but I'll try to be brave. So a little bit about the city of New Bern for those who don't know about it. We're at the confluence of the Trent and the Neuse River. The Neuse River is on the picture there is at the top, and the Trent River runs where the boats there. And after the storm, those boats were not there. They were all over the place. Matter of fact, someone came into the EOC and said, if you want a boat, go downtown and just pick you out one. And if you Google, I think Stephen Colbert actually wrote a book about whose boat is this, based on New Bern and the president's visit to the city. We are a flat community. Our base flood elevation is 9 feet, so we're pretty flat. So when water comes in like we had, it has nowhere to go. So thinking about how we use GIS, I kind of want to just kind of talk about it. Let's see. So storms, enough is enough. Like as Tim said, I moved there 18 years ago. I lived in Durham for 8 years, or actually I lived in Durham since the mid-'70s. I'm only 29, so I don't know how that happened. But so I went to Durham, went to Kentucky for 2 years to start a GIS. Missed North Carolina. This is my home. And so I came back. So when I moved to New Bern, looking for that quiet life, right on the water, it was going to be nice and quiet. And just a couple of years, I actually missed Floyd, which was good. So in 2003, we had Isabel. That was my first taste of a storm. And at that time, I sat in in part of an EOC, we were taking calls for power outages. And you had a form, you filled out the address and all that stuff, and someone entered it in a spreadsheet. So we weren't using GIS like we should. And we were really just building our GIS, so we didn't have the functionality we have now. 2011, we had Irene that hit. I thought that was bad enough. There can't really be too much more than this. At that time, we did things a little better. We were using GIS. We had maps. We weren't really using it online, but we could print out a bunch of maps and track information. We did damage assessment. We had over 400 structures that were damaged during Irene, and loss of water or flood surge was 7 feet. That was, I thought, really bad enough. But we would do damage assessments. They would go out there with the FEMA long forms, fill out all the paperwork, and then bring them back in, and then I would enter in the GIS. So it took us weeks to do damage assessment. So Matthew came in 2016, and we scooted it past that. But it really kind of opened our eyes about how could we use GIS, because we really thought Matthew was going to be really bad. How could we use GIS to be better prepared than what we are now? And then we didn't have long to wait. Last year, Florence came, 10-foot plus surges. We had over 2,000 structures that were damaged that we know of. $1.2 million worth of building damage alone. And if you would go down the street for weeks and weeks and weeks, really, and we're not the only community, you'd see nothing but people's belongings their whole life on the streets. So it's kind of sad. And then a month later, here comes Michael. I'm like, seriously? I am not going back in the EOC. I've done that. I'm not doing that. So how do we use GIS during Florence? So we kind of think about Florence is not, I thought Irene was it. But, Florence came and proved that all wrong. So this is just NOAA's screenshot from 2005, the storms that are out in the northern Atlantic. 2011, and so the darker the line, the worse the storm is. And then last year, we know more is going to come, unfortunately. So how can we be prepared, and how can we learn from what we've done so far? So kind of thinking about thinking backwards a little bit, the calm before a storm. What did I use GIS, or what could I do for GIS? We were inundated with emails and calls and stuff like that. We've got data. Here's some data. Here's some live data. Here's some from NOAA, from the Weather Channel, from Weather Service, from Esri, from all. And it's great and wonderful. But it was like a 10-page email and lots of links. And if you click on that link, you had to read a bunch of information to find what you were looking for. And there was a lot of redundancy. And we just didn't, or at least I should say, I just didn't have time to do all that. So I would go through there and look at what I thought was important, like the storm surge information, the tracking of the hurricane, that kind of stuff. And I created kind of like a story map, and I have a link there. I'm not going to open it up here. So we just put like a little tab story map that we did. And we put the first one was just like where are the road blockages, because we knew general information needed to be put out there. And so we also took information from all these other agencies that we thought valuable for not only us, but for the citizens to be able to help as well, because they were calling in, what should we do? We did have a mandatory evacuation. And of course, not everybody that should leave left. And so they were calling, what do we do? So, how can I put that information out that could be consumed? So then I moved on that Wednesday before the storm into the EOC. We set it up. I had two computers. I had my desktop, or my laptop, I should say, connected to my hard drive, and then I had a big screen, and I think I've got a picture of it. I'll show it in a minute. And I kept getting confused on what mouse. Have you ever moved your mouse? You've got two things going on. I'm like, why is this not working? And then I realized I was going at the wrong screen. So anyway, so we had the EOC going on. We were inside the water treatment plant, and so we would spend 10, 12 hours at a time working, trying to get things done. We'd take an hour or so break in these little tank areas. And every time you tried to go to sleep, you would hear this, what? So we were like, okay, yeah, I'm going to get a lot of sleep in here. So, plus it was freezing cold. So that was interesting, going from Wednesday to Sunday with pretty much no sleep whatsoever. So we didn't kill each other, and we didn't smell really good at the end. We didn't look a whole lot, but we made it through. So, but thinking about at the beginning, before we were setting it up, what maps should I create? And of course, everybody wants paper maps that they can put up on the wall, so we had to do some of that. So we printed out a bunch of maps. What kind of data do we want to share? What kind of data do we want to have now, and what kind of data do we know we're going to take during the storm, and what data kind of be thinking about after the fact? Is it available to share? So we had all these publication data. Is it shareable? Because sometimes we would try to publish something to share with everybody, and it, you had rules and sign in and all that kind of stuff. So we had to test all of that. And we wanted to make sure it was accurate, because there was a lot of redundant data, as I said. And what kind of thinking about everybody's needs. What are the state staff needs? What are the needs for citizens? And what other agencies that we know we're going to have to deal with, FEMA, the National Guard, what are going to be their needs? So we're trying to think of all that in just a little bit of time. So during the storm. This is my city manager there with the hat, Mr. GQ himself, Mark Stevens. He's an awesome guy. And that's Bobby Boyd. He's our fire chief who ran the EOC. So we were trying to, during the storm, probably the storm gauges were our favorite tool to use. We were getting reads every 6 minutes on the storm surge that was coming in. It hit 8. Like I said, Irene, we were at 7. And when it hit that, we were like hoping, okay, that's enough. We survived this once, we can do it again. And then we were also getting anywhere from 80 to 100 mile an hour winds at our Neuse River. The first picture I showed you, that little area, that's where the gauge was at. And when it got to 8 feet, we're like, okay, this is not good. But it seemed to stop. And I was just like, you just have that hope, okay, it's going to stop. And it sat there for maybe 20, 30 minutes or so at 8 feet or so, teetered. And I'm like, okay, we can survive this. This is going to be good. And then it started going up again. And then it went to 9 feet, and then it went to 10 feet. And we knew, this picture that you actually see, we pulled up the storm data, the FEMA, or flood insurance data. And what he's pointing at is the 10-foot contour lines that we got from the state. And we could see that there were going to be areas that we were not prepared for to be affected, that were going to be heavily affected. So we were also I'm sitting in the middle of the EOC, I'm down at the bottom there. I had utilities on my left, I had public works on my other left, I had fire, police, Parks and Rec. We were all sitting around this table, and they were all asking me, give me this information, give me this information. What's this number? What's that number? And they were also communicating with walkie-talkies. Some of them have 2 or 3 walkie-talkies to the people that were out in the field. So the storm hits, and we immediately, I guess, late Friday night, early Saturday morning, getting the calls after calls after calls. I'm in my house. Water is coming up to my stairwells, or it's in my living room. I'm up in my attic. What do? I need somebody to come help. So we knew we had GIS that we could help, and we were pushing out maps as best we could. Excuse me. We actually got so many calls in that everybody in the EOC started taking calls in, and we tried to prioritize. If you were a 2-story house, you went to the bottom of the list because you could go upstairs. If you were in a 1-story house and you have water in your first level, or you were in a car, we had several people in cars that were stuck. So we started prioritizing and trying to use GIS to map out where the priorities were at. We had people that we had resourced. We had 3 shelters that were set up. And we were trying to dispatch. So our Parks and Rec guys had 2 buses that were running. So as they would do water rescues, they would meet at a higher point and bus people to the shelters. The shelter started to fill up. And unfortunately, that it seems to be an occurrence with all the storms that I've been involved in. A lot of these people have pets, and only one shelter was taking pets, and that shelter filled up pretty fast. I was so amazed at our animal rescue group. It's a nonprofit volunteer group. They were out in the storm, meeting up with our Parks and Rec bus, taking these pets and taking them to the shelter to take care of them so that people would actually go to the shelter because people would not leave their home without their pets. I love my pets, and I probably would do the same thing. I say I won't, but I probably would do the same thing. So that's, something that we really need to kind of think about as a community. What can we do better about people with pets? And then damaged utilities. Like I said, I had utilities beside it. We have an online app in our city utility that we started about 1.5 years ago. It's a real live outage. So as utilities start to go down, the map goes from green to red. And I sat there and watched it go red, 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 red. And it was not a pretty sight to see. So we lost power everywhere, and we could hear the generators kick on. So it was an interesting time during the EOC. At about 1 o'clock Saturday morning, we've done our water rescues, and things are starting to calm down a little bit. We're kind of managing things and prioritizing, picking up people. We have a small community of Pollocksville, which is just down the road from us. And Trent River had flooded. They're a small town, a lot smaller than New Bern. And I guess probably 4,000 people. They had the same storm surge we had. So Florence was headed their way, and it had risen the Trent River. And if you go through there now, it looks dead. There's a lot of buildings that probably won't come back. But at 1 o'clock in the morning, our guys went out there and started doing water rescues for them. Well, a lot of our guys are not from Pollocksville. They don't know Pollocksville. So they called in, and I had, like I said, on the right-hand side, I had the fire chief people there. They're like talking on the radio. We're in Pollocksville. We've rescued people. We need to know where to take people, and we need to know where can we go to high ground. We need elevation data. And I'm like, well, I'm New Bern. I've got Craven County. I've got stuff like that. I don't have elevation data. And then I'm like, wait a minute. Yes, I do. The state has done an awesome job of providing us with real-time data that we can take advantage of for free. And it saved, I know without a doubt, it saved lives that night or early in the morning, where I could pull it up and say, here's a location that you can take people to get them out of harm's way. So I don't know how many rescues we did in Pollocksville. I know we did over 300 in New Bern alone. So fun times. But I was never so prouder of the ability to use GIS and help with GIS during the event. So after the fact, like I said, during Irene, we had all these paper maps because we want to provide information to FEMA and other agencies as soon as possible so that we can start getting funds in to help to recoup. And I hope I'm not taking too much time, so I'm good. Okay. That should be nothing that anybody ever accuses me of, is taking too much time at a public speaking. If that ever happens, somebody shoot me or something. So after the fact, we wanted to, like I said, Matthew was a good trial event. We had our fire marshal that came to us. We have what's called GIS technical user group meetings with all the departments on a quarterly basis. And so we kind of discussed about how can GIS make your department a little better. And then we talk about state initiatives, the imagery, and other data that's out there, and kind of share it and kind of talk. And so the fire marshal, Durham Matthew, said, because we go out with inspectors and fire, go out as a team, let's try this damage assessment tool that you talked about. And so we tried it and we tweaked it, and we loved it. For Matthew, we gave it a good trial. We didn't have to use it. I think we had 10 structures that had tree branches that fell on them, but all in all, compared to Kinston and the Lumberton area, we were blessed. So the nice thing about damage assessment is it was real time. So we had this screen up at our EOC, so everybody could see Sunday morning, we started out. So I'm at the EOC Saturday, Sunday morning. I left there, went over to the Inspections Department and Development Services, got them going on damage assessment, went back to the EOC, so I was back and forth. But the nice thing about the the damage assessment tool is we could see real time as they were going out in the field. So we could see what areas that were being affected. We had our guys doing, had other folks that, like from the city of Wilson, city of Wilson, inspectors to help us do damage assessment. And there were probably other people, but I'll be real honest, at that point, I didn't even know my own name. So I apologize if I didn't say the right people. We also wanted to know where can we put out supplies, water, where can you go for help? So we could use that online app that we had to provide that information. Where should we send people? We've got utilities and damage and other things. Where can we send people that, especially that are here, out of town, don't know the city, and we can provide maps real time for that. We also had FEMA that was there working with the county and the county agency. Poor Daniel, I owe him, with the county, I owe him an apology. He called one day, and I think it was like 5 or 6 days into it, and he asked for something. I think I literally took his head off through the phone. And I wasn't mad at Daniel. I was mad at I was tired. I was mad at FEMA for asking for something that we were trying to, give us a break. We're trying to provide as best we can. So, Daniel, I know you're probably here. I saw you around. I apologize. See, I did it in front of everybody. So I'm not usually that cranky. So we also had instances where we had, like I said, a mandatory evacuation. There was a mandatory, what do you call it when you can't go out? My brain just went dead. Anyway, you weren't supposed to be out because there was water, and water was everywhere. There's electrical lines that were down. It was just not safe to be out. Trees everywhere. So you were not supposed to, a curfew, thank you, curfew. People were going downtown to go view these places, this damage and everything, and they were actually moving barriers to drive past. And so we had to send the National Guard out to protect, people's homes and areas and keep people safe from themselves. And so we, had people from the National Guard, and so they needed maps too. I got a call. I went home. Like I said, Sunday, I left the EOC, went to inspections that I'm like, I'm going to run home just to check on my house and just lay my head down in my own bed for 5 minutes. And at 1 o'clock in the morning, the policeman called me and said, I need a map for the National Guard. And he said, did I wake you? I'm like, it's 1 o'clock on Monday morning. No, you didn't wake me up. Actually, he probably didn't. We had no electricity, so it was hot. So in utilities, how could we provide information to, like I said, there was water everywhere, there was electrical lines down everywhere, and we needed to know what areas were damaged so we could turn those those utilities off. So after the storm, we've done the damage assessment, and so the cleanup begins. And so just to see how GIS is used, not only for us and everything, our church and other organizations started using this crisis cleanup software, which is really a nice tool. So as a person that might have damage in your house, you can go on this app, and I think it's been started using it about 3 years ago. You go on this app and you put in your address, and there's like a long list of questions you answer. You tell them what kind of help you need. And then the organization that uses it, like our church had people coming from Virginia and stuff that would camp out at our church, and we would go out on the weekends and do cleanups, mucks and tree branches, emptying houses, furniture, and all that kind of stuff. And so the organization can look at this and define an area and look at the criteria of what needs to be done, and they can send crews out and they can claim that request. And they have all the contact information. So it's mapped out. And then here's a screenshot of it that I took a couple of days ago. So if it's green, that means it's been taken care of. And so the boots are mucking out and other things that needed to be done. So if it was someone needed more help than your organization could provide, then you would pass it along to or you would leave it alone, and another organization that had more skilled help could utilize it. It was great. It was awesome because you could see it, you could map it out. Amazing GIS all the tools that helped us during the storm. I was just so impressed. So a little bit of reflections. And yes, there's really a sign that says in our park right after the storm, says park is closed due to flood. Like I said, you would be amazed at the people that were out there playing around in it. There were boats everywhere. It's a sad time when you have to have sandbags on top of your barricades to keep them from floating away. It's still sad to see those pictures. But thinking back on how could GIS be a little bit better, like I said, it would be nice to have, as organizations, instead of right before the storm sending all these emails, if we could right now, while it's calm, create one configurable story map that can be configured for any community, like a Pollocksville that doesn't have GIS staff. So thinking about for all. Start looking at modeling and determining vulnerable areas, and do that now, not later when you have time, because you're never going to have time. I think I could work 24/7 and still not get caught up. There might be a project that you have to push to the side, but I think you need to do it. And one of the big things I kick myself for is training staff. I felt really bad that people had to keep constantly asking me for help when I should have had them trained where they could help themselves. Our firemen, right after the storm, they were using this little app to do kind of like with the damage assessment. When they would do water rescues, they wanted an app, so we've been playing around with that. We've created one, and they're kind of doing a test thing where they can do real time. Where are they at? Where are they rescuing people from? And they know where all that's at in real time. And we kind of already talked about this a little bit about like having a GIS core of volunteers. So if I'm not affected, if I'm not hit by the storm, like with Matthew, I can provide my services and volunteer to help those that are at. I know Kent Rothrock with Highland Mapping during the EOC, I don't think I mentioned this earlier, our server, our SDE server was doing this crazy funky stuff, and I called him that Saturday during the height of the storm, and he stopped what he was doing to help me, and I appreciated that. It would be nice. I was a GIS person, so everybody else had other people, and they could take breaks or whatever. I didn't have anybody else. I mean, we had GIS techs that were in the utilities and helping out. So it would be nice if I could just call and say, hey, am I doing this right? Or is there something else I could be doing? Or just, any kind of support, that would be great. So we had like a core group of volunteers. That would be awesome. And look outside the lines. The storm doesn't just hit your community, it hits bigger areas. So when you're thinking about things, think outside that boundary that you have. And then look at policies. Is there policies in your community that you could be doing a little better when you build? This is a planner part of me coming out. When you're building back these areas, some of these areas maybe they don't need to be built back in. We've got one area in our community, it's really a retention pond, and it floods every time. So maybe we don't need to be building back there. So those are just some thoughts that I had. So thinking about that, UNCW reached out to us recently about doing a partnership. I'm running out of time. Okay, so I'll just go through this real quick. See, I never thought this would happen, that I'm running out of time. But we're working with them along with Josh Norwood with Pender County. And we're looking at the vulnerability both in structures and people. And so this is just kind of an objective that they're trying to go look at. And they did a presentation to us, and like 45% of the buildings in this area along the eastern coast are in some kind of flood hazard area. So I know Hope. I see Hope sitting there. I know she already knows all this stuff. So there's 128,000 structures that are sitting in flood areas that we need to kind of worry about. So having said all that, I won't read all this because I guess maybe I'll have time. So David Bednar, I recently read a talk from David Bednar, and he said, and I thought about this, a rope is an essential tool with which all of us are familiar. Ropes are made from strands of fabric, plants, wire, or other materials that are each individually twisted or braided together. Interesting substances that may be quite unexceptional can be woven together and become exceptionally strong. Thus, effectively connecting and binding ordinary materials can produce an extraordinary tool. And I think that's what our GIS community is. There are some communities that need a little bit of help, but if we bind together, we can be exceptional. And I thank you for listening to me.
Thanks, Alice. I'll have to convey to you that that's not the first time I've heard Alice talk about her experience in New Bern. At the November GICC meeting, we asked Alice, Richard Teenstra from City of Wilmington, and Josh Norwood from Pender County to share their experiences during Hurricane Florence. And their stories were so compelling, we thought they should be a part of the conference. And so you've heard from one of them, but life happens when the other speakers are concerned. And we have a solution, but I just wanted to share with you that both Richard and Josh really wanted to be here today. Richard contacted me on Friday, had a family medical emergency that has not run its course, whatever it is. He's unable to be here. So I've asked Jeff Brown from our team to share some of Richard's slides from the council meeting. Of course, it won't be the same because it's not first person, but I think it will convey what you need to hear about that experience. So for Josh was literally packing his car yesterday, and he stumbled and broke his tibia as it connects to his ankle. And he was still going to get in the car and come here because he was that interested, obviously, in being with all of you and sharing what he's done in Pender County. But first, he made the fatal mistake of going to his primary care physician. And he told him in no uncertain terms, no, you're not traveling. So I'm going to step in just really briefly for Josh and talk about his experience. He sent me an email last night that's pretty brief, but it involves recognizing some of the team that he wanted to be sure that is recognized. And I'm a Southern boy. When somebody tells me to do something, I'm going to do it. So I'm going to share that with you later, but first I'm going to turn it over to Jeff, who's going to spend maybe about 10 minutes talking about the City of Wilmington experience.
Good morning. Thank you. Richard Teenstra is the Senior GIS Manager for the City of Wilmington, and I'm going to do my best. As you know, Hurricane Florence actually made landfall at Wilmington, or actually at Wrightsville Beach. Category 1 storm by the time it hit the land, but it was very damaging. There was 6-foot storm surge. The damage from that wasn't terrible. It was the rain. I'll talk more about that. State of emergency, they started planning for this on September 10th. City operations closed September 11th. So they were 3 days ahead of the storm. Incident management teams mobilized on the 12th. The post-storm activity started as soon as the winds died down. So there are some facts. We talked about the rainfall. This map here, those dark blue areas were 15 to 20 inches of rain. The almost black areas there were 20 to 30 inches. And around Wilmington, if you see those pink areas, that was 30 inches or more of rain, so almost 3 feet in some locations. That was the biggest problem. Before the storm, GIS was involved in coordinating with GIS and their information technology team, getting ready. Between the city and New Hanover County, they coordinated. Resources were staged. They started using web applications featuring maps to inform the citizenry about shelter locations, directions for evacuation, and so forth. They also had real-time weather displayed and traffic information displayed in an application, traffic information coming from NCDOT. This is one of the examples of a web application that they had showing long-term care facilities and shelter locations. During the storm, GIS was involved in the Emergency Operations Center. Richard commented that Web EOC and ArcGIS integration could be improved. They did the best they could at this stage, but he sees room for improvement there. But heavily used during the storm. The IT infrastructure stayed up the whole time, which is really fortunate. In the Emergency Operations Center, the call center, they were tracking incidents with this application. For example, trees down, flooding, power line incidents, and even holes that were emerging. After the storm, damage assessment was the focus. They used ArcGIS Collector and also used paper out in the field. Cell service was down for a whole week there, so this was complicating the whole response. But this is an example of the damage assessment with locations and numbers in a dashboard that was very popular with the decision makers. After the storm, another focus was debris pickup. They had an estimated 1.3 million cubic yards of debris. So they started planning on tens of thousands of cubic yards pickup per day. The estimated cost of the pickup was between $13 million and $20 million. In comparison, after Hurricane Matthew, they spent $1.1 million, and after Irene, $570,000. So this was a huge debris issue. And they used another web application to communicate the recovery pace, the progress by zone of the debris pickup. Richard commented that looking ahead, there is room for improvement in the coordination between the City of Wilmington and New Hanover County and data sharing ahead of time and during the event. Their IT infrastructure stayed up the whole time, but they want to plan for the event that goes down. What do they do then in terms of trying to communicate with the public and keeping the GIS going? And communication with the public, they see ways to plan to make that even better. But there was a great reliance on that with cell service down, but internet service available for much of the area. He does regret he couldn't be here, but he did. He gave a nice presentation to council. It's online at the council website, and in the council minutes also attached online to that meeting on November 7th. So that's a quick nutshell, Tim. Okay. Thank you. He's going to bring the PDF up.
Thanks, Jeff, and thanks for pinch hitting. Jeff's an old baseball guy, so he knows about pinch hitting. So in closing out this morning, I want to spend just a couple of minutes sharing what Josh would have shared if he had been here. He gave me some good notes to follow. It's some of the same themes that Alice shared earlier and Jeff shared through the City of Wilmington's experience. So in Josh's view, GIS had three roles. Plan and manage damage assessment using iPads with Collector app for the ArcGIS. They created an operations dashboard to show the results. Upper management, such as county commissioners, were really excited about being able to see that, especially the near real-time assessment data they were able to provide. The second role that GIS performed was in the rescue stage. He believes that this is actually the most important role that GIS played in the event. They supported over 1,000 outside resources in their community. They easily printed over 500 maps. Many of those were very unique, not the same map done over and over again, which is super challenging in the environment he was in. The Collector app was created to verify that nobody had been left behind once the waters started to recede in some areas. Third role of GIS was in the recovery phase. It's really ongoing from his point of view with a shift to analytics recently as requests come in about what happened and then how to look forward in terms of cooperation and work in the future with local, state, and federal partners. He had a number of lessons learned Never underestimate an event and how it may affect you, which I think Alice would echo, and probably Richard would echo as well. Cross-train whenever possible. Don't wait until an event is upon you to cross-train. And be organized. Unbelievable demands, but also unbelievable volume of tasks executed in a very stressful situation. So all of them, very, very great lessons learned. So Josh also wanted me to do two more things. He wanted me to recognize the GIS strike team and the vendors who helped him, and I want to share something with you before I call your names. This is from Josh, so I'll try to speak in his voice. From the bottom of my heart, I want to thank each and every one of you for what you did for myself, Pender County, and the citizens of Pender County before, during, and after Hurricane Florence. There's no doubt in my mind that I would not have made it without you, and I'm forever grateful for your sacrifice. You all truly saved the day and saved lives, more importantly. Myself, along with Pender County, cannot say thank you enough, and I'm sorry that I cannot be with you there to give you the recognition and award you deserve. I will never forget what you did. So the people he was talking about, if you'll stand, try not to embarrass you, but I want to recognize you. Columbus Hawks from Rowan County. Sally Vaughn from Person County. Sarah Ray from NCDOT. Chris Contreras from the city of Jacksonville. Kent Rothrock from Highland Mapping. And Atlas Geographic Data and their staff, which were instrumental in helping. So one final thing that Josh wanted me to share. There's no question that GIS played a monumental role in the aftermath of Hurricane Florence. Lives were saved as a direct result of the timely information we were able to provide. I am just so grateful for the opportunity to share a little bit of what went on in Pender County. I'm also very thankful for all the people in the room and beyond that offered a helping hand during our time of need. The GIS community in North Carolina has really set the bar, and I'm excited to see what the future holds for all of us. I am so proud to belong to the greatest GIS community on the planet. That's all of you. All right. So, yeah. So obviously none of us want to experience something like the disruption and chaos around a hurricane. But you have public servants like Alice and Josh and Richard and many of you who were involved that made a difference when it counted. So we've gone away from in the conference planning from having a theme for a conference, but I think someone on the planning team said it best, maybe collaboration is the unofficial theme for 2019 as a result of what happened with Hurricane Florence. That needs to be our commitment to each other and the place that we call home. So we're going to have a 15-minute break, and presentations start at 10:30 in the 6 rooms. Enjoy the conference.